My parents gave everything to my golden child sibling, then demanded I fund their retirement. I refused and cut ties. I'm 34M, and I don't think I've ever had a normal relationship with my parents. Growing up, it was pretty clear my younger brother, let's call him T, was their favorite. He's 2 years younger than me, and while I was the one who got good grades, kept out of trouble, and tried to make something of myself, T, he was the screw up plain and simple. But to my parents, that didn't matter. It never mattered. I was the responsible one, so they expected me to handle things, while T just skated through life with their full support. To give you an idea, T barely graduated high school. He partied hard, dropped out of community college, then bounced between dead-end jobs while living at home well into his late 20s. Meanwhile, I was working my ass off to pay for college, land a decent job, and save for a house, and no matter what I did, I was never enough for them. Everything was always about how T needed help, how T was struggling, how I was independent and could handle myself. Last year, things finally hit the fan. I went to visit my parents for a typical Sunday dinner. We weren't exactly close, but I still did the obligatory family thing once in a while. Anyway, we're sitting in the living room after eating, and my dad suddenly gets this serious look on his face. My mom's sitting next to him, fidgeting with her hands like she's nervous, but they're both acting like they have something major to tell me. We've made a decision, my dad says, about the estate. I'm thinking, okay, they're getting older, maybe they're drawing up wills or something. But then he drops it. They've signed everything over to T. The house, the vacation cabin, their savings, everything. I didn't react at first. I just sat there, staring at them, waiting for the punchline that never came. They were dead serious. My father started rambling about how T needs the support more, and how I'm doing well on my own and don't need their help. My mother, of course, was nodding along like she always does, as if they had rehearsed this entire thing. So, you're giving everything to him, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. And I'm getting nothing? They exchanged a quick glance, and my mom jumps in with her usual bullshit. It's not about that. You know we love you both, but you're stable. You've always been responsible, and T's, well, he struggled. Struggled. That was the word they used. Like blowing every opportunity and partying away his 20s counted as struggling. You do realize I busted my ass to get where I am, right? I said. I didn't just magically become stable, I worked for it. They didn't get it. Or maybe they didn't care. My dad just sighed and rubbed his temples like I was being unreasonable. We're not trying to punish you. We just think T needs more help right now. You've always been the strong one. I've heard this crap my entire life. But hearing it now, with them essentially cutting me out of their lives in favor of him, felt different. But I wasn't going to make a scene. Not yet. Instead, I asked the obvious question. So what's your plan for retirement? You're giving everything to him. Does he take care of you? My mom shifted uncomfortably, and my dad finally looked me in the eye, though he couldn't hold my gaze for long. We assumed you'd help us out when the time comes, he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's when it clicked. They weren't just giving everything to T. They were expecting me to support them financially when they ran out of money. My brother gets the house, the savings, and the cabin, and I get, what? Their bills? So you're telling me I get nothing except the responsibility of taking care of you when you can't work anymore? I asked, the anger bubbling up. My dad, looking more irritated than apologetic, nodded. You're more equipped to handle it, to still trying to get his life together. It makes sense. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is unbelievable, I said. You're rewarding him for doing nothing, and then you expect me to pick up the slack? Are you serious? My mom started crying. Her go-to move whenever things get uncomfortable. It's not like that. We didn't mean for it to come across that way. She sobbed, but the words meant nothing. She wasn't sorry for what they were doing. She was just upset I wasn't falling in line like they expected. No, I said, standing up. You've made your decision. T can have everything, but don't come to me expecting me to clean up his mess or take care of you when things go south. I'm done. I walked out without another word. They called after me, but I didn't turn back. As soon as I got home, I blocked their numbers. I needed space, and I wasn't about to let them guilt me into staying involved in this ridiculous family dynamic. For months, there was silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. I figured they were content letting T blow through their money. But of course, that didn't last. Eventually, I got a voicemail from my mother, sounding panicked. T's in trouble, she said. He made some bad decisions. We need your help. Please call us back. I didn't call back. They wanted me to step in after T had inevitably blown through the money they handed him on a silver platter. No way. I deleted the voicemail and moved on with my day. A week later, my dad tried calling, then my aunt, then random family friends. All of them with the same sob story. T's struggling. Your parents need help. It was insane. My parents had given everything to T, watched him burn through it, and now they were coming to me again to bail them out. The entitlement was staggering. I finally answered one of my aunt's calls. She tried the whole family guilt trip, telling me it was my duty to help my parents, especially now that T had messed up. I wasn't having it. Let me get this straight, I said. They gave T everything, right? So he's their responsibility now, not me. She sputtered. But they didn't know T would blow through it all. They thought they were helping him. You can't just leave them in the lurch. Why not? I asked, my voice steady. They made their choice. I'm not cleaning up after them. I hung up after that. I was done with these people trying to drag me back into a mess that wasn't mine to fix. Then a few weeks later, I got a call from a lawyer. Apparently, my parents were trying to rewrite their will, this time to make me the executor of T's estate because, surprise, surprise, he couldn't handle it himself. The lawyer started rattling off some legal jargon about how I'd be responsible for managing their assets once they were gone, which of course included keeping an eye on T. I cut him off. No, I'm not interested. Tell them I'm out. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, like the lawyer wasn't used to hearing this kind of response. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. Tell them I want nothing to do with it. I hung up and blocked the lawyer's number, too. This was getting ridiculous. They were so determined to put everything in T's name, but the second he screwed it up, they turned to me to fix it. Not happening. The final confrontation came when my dad showed up at my house, unannounced. I hadn't spoken to them in months, and suddenly there he was, standing on my front porch like nothing had happened. We need to talk, he said, looking serious but not apologetic. I crossed my arms. There's nothing to talk about. You're being selfish, he said, his tone hardening. You're just going to let your brother fail? Let us suffer? What kind of son does that? I felt the anger rising again, but I kept my voice calm. You gave him everything. You made that decision. Now you're asking me to clean up after him? No, I'm not your backup plan. You don't just turn your back on family. He shot back. This is your responsibility, whether you like it or not. That was it. I was done with the guilt trips, the manipulation, the endless cycle of them expecting me to pick up the pieces. No, I said firmly, it's your responsibility. You gave everything to T, so you deal with him. I'm not your safety net. He looked furious, but there was nothing left to say. I shut the door in his face, locking it behind me. He banged on it a few times, but eventually he left. After that, I stopped hearing from them as much. I'm sure they're still telling relatives I'm the bad guy, letting everyone know how I abandoned them, but honestly, I don't care anymore. They made their bed, and now they can lie in it. I've moved on since then. They tried a few more times to get through to me, but I ignored them. Every call, every voicemail, every desperate attempt from some distant relative to guilt me back into the fold, I shut it all down. T can have everything, just like they wanted, but they can't have me cleaning up the messes they've made. I'm not going to lie and say it didn't hurt. It did for a while, but eventually you have to accept people for who they are. My parents made their choice, and now they have to live with it. I've made mine and I feel lighter because of it. Sometimes you have to let people destroy their own lives without dragging you down with them. And you know what? If T's their golden child, he can take care of them when things fall apart. It's not my problem anymore. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.